This sucks. You're asking what this is? Maybe this will help. This graphic shows how Destiny 2's analog aiming works. Bungie is often cited as the grandfathers of good FPS controls on console. And while they really did improve things with Halo Combat Evolved compared to many other shooters at the time, contrary to what many believe, they didn't actually invent dual analog shooter controls. And 64 and PS1 games already had very similar control schemes. What they did do is adding clever aim assist and having overall smoother controls. For 2001, the controls were indeed very good. But since then a lot changed. Bungie, and many others, however, never evolved from Halo 2. Speaking of Halo and Destiny, before we begin, let's get this out of the way.
But I have no issue with hitting shots in Halo and Destiny.
That might be true, but it's not due to good aiming controls of these games, and rather because of the strongest aim assist known to man. In Halo and Destiny, as soon as your reticle goes from white to red, the game activates bullet magnetism, which will bend the trajectory of your bullets towards the enemy. I am shooting to the side of this enemy here and still hit every shot because I am in red reticle range and bullet magnetism is now on, which will aim for me. The Halo and Destiny games also have strong traditional aim assist, of course. Halo and Destiny aren't even the worst, and in this video I will talk about what developers still get wrong regularly even today, and how to do it properly. There are three kinds of dead zones: the inner dead zone, the outer dead zone, and axial dead zones. The inner dead zone determines how far you have to push your stick until an input gets registered. The outer dead zone determines how far you have to push your stick until the game sees your input is 100% pushed to the side. And the axial dead zones determine how far off of the four cardinal directions you have to be until the game detects a diagonal input. To get it straight out of the way, in my opinion, axial dead zones are completely useless in a shooter and should never be used by default. Having it as an opt-in option cannot hurt, I guess, but never have it as a default, or even worse, like in the case of Destiny 2, as a mandatory thing. To demonstrate the axial dead zone in Destiny 2, which you cannot turn off, I will aim straight at this corner here, start spinning, and let's see how far off the cardinal direction I have to go until the game moves my aim upwards. At 9% up tilt now, and my reticle has not moved up even slightly. "12% is what it seems to take for the game to register that I am indeed trying to aim upwards. This is an absolutely terrible feature if you want to be able to aim precisely. So, I will say it again. Every developer should let people turn this off. Axial dead zones are an awful idea for any and all shooters. Let's talk about the inner dead zone. Having a massive inner dead zone is a bad idea. You want your dead zone to be as small as possible. The usual default in competitive shooters is around 10% or less. Let's look at Destiny 2 once again, which has a massive 23% inner dead zone. That is awful and leaves absolutely no room for precision. And as you might have noticed, the dead zone is not only large but also rectangular with rounded edges instead of circle-shaped. This means aiming diagonally will feel even less responsive than the cardinal directions already do. The outer dead zone is rarely an issue in any game. It can, but it's very rare that it happens. Usually the outer dead zone is used to turn on so-called bonus speed, often falsely labeled aim acceleration. We will talk about actual aim acceleration later though. Here in XDefiant, we have an example where bonus speed is falsely labeled as aim acceleration. This is in fact plain and simple bonus speed with no acceleration added. As a quick demonstration what bonus speed does in a game, I am using Apex Legends here. I set my normal aim speed to an extremely low value, but added bonus speed to my outer dead zone. Now look and see what happens when I hit the outer edge with my stick. This is bonus speed in action. It's a handy and easy way to add turn speed for fast 180-degree turns without sacrificing precision. And to demonstrate how to handle dead zones properly, we'll look at Apex Legends again. As you can see here, we have two sliders, one for the inner dead zone, and one for the outer dead zone. Not only that, here on the side you see a real-time visual indicator on how big that dead zone is and how it will affect your reaction curve. You basically can't do it much better than this. There is no slider for an axial dead zone, as you can see, and that is due to the fact that Apex Legends simply doesn't have one, not even as an option, which to me is great news. But as I said before, as an optional extra, it can't hurt. Like here in Halo Infinite. But it is extremely important that every dead zone type can be adjusted by the user. The reason it is important is controller variation. Every controller is different. Even if you have a brand new, factory sealed controller, that controller might have a slightly different natural dead zone and natural resting value than one that you bought a day, week, month, or year later or earlier. As you can see here, I'm using two completely new and previously unused Xbox Series X controllers. The just released Starfield Special Edition. And the environmentally friendly green one here. Here is the resting value of the Starfield controller. And these are the values of the green controller. And here in the accuracy test, they're even more different from each other. Due to these differences, it is of utmost importance that games let you dial this in the game itself. This is even more important on PC than on console, because on PC the players could be using any sorts of controllers, a DualShock 4, a DualSense, an Xbox One, Xbox Series X. Hell, even Xbox 360 controllers are still popular among some players that can't let go of the past. You always want the absolute smallest dead zone possible for your controller for maximum control over fine aim adjustments. Games that don't let you do that are doing it wrong. Plain and simple. Also known as ramp-up time. Aim acceleration was originally designed to help less skilled players aim more smoothly. It is therefore a nice feature to have as an option. As an option though, not as an unavoidable hindrance for the player. Skilled players do not benefit from aim acceleration. The opposite is in fact true. This is how it works. Instead of allowing you to instantly move your aim at the speed you want, it will slowly ramp up to the desired speed. Hence the alternative name ramp-up time. Notice how I slam my stick to the side, but instead of instantly turning full speed, I am slowly accelerating towards it. Neither Destiny 2 nor Halo Infinite allow you to turn aim acceleration off. Halo Infinite at the very least allows you to change the speed of acceleration, but that is frankly not enough. It's better than absolutely zero options like in Destiny 2 though. And to see how it is done properly, once again, we are taking a look at Apex Legends. Here we see options for ramp-up time plus ramp-up time delay. And on top of that, they allow you to change it separately for aiming from the hip and for aiming down sights. It's all there. And most importantly, you can turn it off. Aim acceleration introduces often unwanted variation in your aim speed that is time sensitive and simply takes control away from the player. There should always be an option to turn it off completely. The reaction curve, also known as response curve, determines how the camera controls react to your stick input. There are two very common reaction curve types. The most basic one being linear, which isn't so much a curve and more of a line, and this one, which is often called an exponential curve. With a linear reaction curve, a 30% tilt of your stick will make your camera turn at 30% of its maximum speed. 10% tilt will give you 10% speed. 73% tilt will give you 73% speed, and so on. With non-linear curves like this exponential curve here, the percentage of tilt does not translate to the same percentage of your camera speed. In this specific example here, tilting your stick 50% to the side will only result in your camera turning with 23% of its maximum speed. As you can see, this will ramp up exponentially towards the outer edges of the stick, hence exponential curve, with a 90% tilt resulting in 73% turn speed, while 100% tilt results in 100% speed on any curve. And let's look at Destiny 2's one and only reaction curve for a moment. What on earth happened here then? As you can see, for the first 23% nothing happens. This is the non-adjustable inner dead zone of the game. Then it goes into what seems to be a vertically compressed exponential curve. But here at around 96% it suddenly shoots up, until it hits 100% speed at roughly 98% stick tilt. And remember, on top of all this you have an axial dead zone, and aim acceleration, none of which you can adjust or turn off. Maybe now the picture is complete and you understand why Destiny 2 is the punching bag here. But Halo Infinite is even worse in some ways. This is Infinite's curve. They basically copy-pasted what Halo did since around Halo 3 and for some reason, compared to Destiny 2, made the curve even more compressed. Here tilting your stick by 98% will only result in a turn speed of around 44%, after which it shoots up to the sky just like Destiny 2. But as you might have noticed, since Halo Infinite allows you to adjust your dead zone, it at least responds earlier to your input. Reaction curves like in Halo Infinite and Destiny 2 have built-in bonus speed, so to speak, which you cannot adjust. And in the case of Halo Infinite, that speed ramp-up is extremely dramatic. Not everyone likes this, and it can lead to controls that feel stuttery or hard to predict. And we now, once again, look at how Apex Legends handles this situation. Apex Legends lets you choose between pre-configured reaction curves, but it also lets players literally make their own if they so desire. On the right you can see how the reaction curve changes from a linear curve to an exponential curve of my choosing. You can make this as linear or as exponential as you like. The only option missing here in Apex Legends is a so-called reverse S-curve, which is popular amongst Call of Duty players, and which is indeed available in XDefiant. Every game should at least have the option between a linear and an exponential reaction curve. The more the better, of course. Bonus speed should not be built into the reaction curve and should be a separate option. And if possible, let your players customize their reaction curves as granularly as possible, like the response curve slider in Apex Legends. Here are a few smaller things that can go wrong and make a shooter feel bad to play. Number 1. Input lag. More input lag leads to less responsive game feel, and in a shooter, unresponsive controls will lead to overshooting or undershooting your target. So developers should always aim to run a game at as high of a frame rate as possible, and should not use VSync setups that lead to unnecessary latency. Number 2. Aim assist. Aim assist should never be too strong or feel too abrupt. Strong aim assist might help a player hone in on their targets, but it can also lead to situations where the player's reticle gets strongly pushed to the side by a random enemy that wasn't the original target. And the aim assist should feel smooth. There should not be an overly noticeable transition from no aim assist to active aim assist. A smooth transition will make the aiming feel, well, smoother. Number 3. Speed. I have no idea why some shooters limit their maximum turn speed at way too low a value. Even Apex Legends is not free from this issue. This is the maximum turn speed in Apex Legends. It's kinda slow, isn't it? Even weirder, if we go into the settings for individual aim downsight speeds, we can for some reason turn ourselves into human tornadoes. So Apex Legends has a maximum hipfire turn speed that is way too slow, but allows you to turn into a helicopter while aiming down sights. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Vertical and horizontal speeds should also always be separate settings, as some players like their speeds to be the same, while many others might like a lower vertical speed. To this is how, in my opinion, every shooter should handle aiming on a controller. Many developers try to overcomplicate things. They add acceleration, weird reaction curves, or really dumb stuff like square-shaped dead zones and unavoidable axial dead zones to their games. Sadly, often also without any way to adjust those or turn them off completely. But good controller aiming can be so damn simple. A simple linear or exponential reaction curve, no acceleration, no bonus speed, a small completely circular dead zone, no axial dead zones, no outer dead zones, and just a simple sensitivity slider would already be enough as the absolute basics. Like if you're an indie developer and you don't have the know-how to have all these complicated sliders and settings. Just add these super rudimentary things and your game will feel really good to play. As for any AAA studio, however, you guys have no excuse to not offer all the settings I mentioned in this video. Literally zero excuses. So add them for f***'s sake. Like, subscribe, and never refrain from calling out developers for not having proper options and not going with the times. We need to get away from PS2 era shooter controls. And developers need to look at what games like Apex, XDefiant, or hell, even Fortnite are doing, instead of looking what Halo 2 did back in 2004.